Welcome to the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission meeting. This meeting is broadcast on several television stations, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphone. Please limit your presentations to 5 minutes. If anyone wishes to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I am about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. After you approach the podium to speak, please sign in legibly, printing your name and address, and any appeals of the Historic Zoning Commission decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days. Can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Maynard?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Haston?
Here.
Commissioner Ewert?
Here.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Here.
It's 5 present, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce Sam Maynard to our Historic Zoning Commission in Knox County. Sam, could you tell a little bit about yourself for a second here?
Well, I'm the executive director of James White's Ford.
You got to turn.
Recording in progress.
Ooh. I'm the executive director of James White's Ford. I guess you all know what that is. That's the beginning of the city of Knoxville, Knoxville's first home. I've been there for about 23 years now, and as you know, it's a complete nonprofit. But I was raised in East Knox County on a dairy farm. We had Maynard's Dairy, along with, there was Wolf Dairies and French Broad Dairies at that time, and we had it for 127 years. So also related to the Cruises, which are my cousins. We do the same thing as what they did. But also part of the First Families of Tennessee, and our family goes back in several different directions on being part of Knoxville and Knox County in the very beginning of it. So there's your little quick roundup of what I do and where I came from.
Well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate you joining the commission. Has everybody got a chance to look at our minutes from our last meeting? If so, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'm going to turn everything over to Lindsay now. Thank you.
Okay. So our case on the agenda, I'd also say there have not been any level 1 COAs issued in Concord since the last meeting. So our first case on the agenda is 10729 Lake Ridge Drive. This is 10J24HC. You can see the site of the property here on your screen. So this is where exterior rehab to 2 porches. The covered porch on the west elevation, the applicant is proposing to remove the metal porch supports and handrails. They will install 6x6 square posts located at the roof corners and centered on that west elevation, and then enclose it with a screen. And then the deck on the facade, they'll be removing it and reconstructing it with a similar rectangular footprint extending the full length of the facade. The deck is proposed to be constructed with a composite flooring material, which is a TimberTech composite with an aluminum handrail of small square posts, and you can see those details here. So this house is unique. It is oriented with the side elevation in some ways kind of fronting Lake Ridge Drive, even though it has that address, and then the front door faces Spring Street. The work relates to an existing porch and deck features on the house. Enclosing the porch visible from the street is discouraged. Installing screening does not fully enclose the porch, however, and removing and replacing these non-historic iron supports is appropriate. The 6-inch square posts will be more compatible with the design of the house. So the main reason this one would be here today is that the design guidelines recommend that porches feature wood materials for ceilings, posts, floors, columns. Composite decking has been approved in other historic districts, typically on uncovered decks or porches. They are typically a tongue and groove style and use a smooth finish instead of faux wood graining. In this instance, based on the location of the porch and its elevation, they will not be visible from the right-of-way. and based on that screening. So it is appropriate for the house and the context. The deck's foundation is enclosed with a wood lattice screening, and so that new deck's foundation screening should be compatible with the materials of the existing house and provided to staff for review. So staff's recommending approval of 10J 24HC, subject to the condition that the deck screening be compatible with the house, with details be provided to staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I'm here.
Any opposition?
No opposition. The current deck is,
Excuse me, ma'am, I just want to see if anybody was here to oppose. There's some people in the audience. The community rep, can you want to read them before we get started, their opinion?
Yeah. So Jonathan Harris, the neighborhood rep, they said the neighborhood's in agreement with the staff recommendation of approval, subject to the one condition. And they also wanted to extend a warm welcome to the new commissioner and invite any of the commissioners who may not have been to Concord to come for a tour, so.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, would you like to speak on this case?
I really don't have anything to add other than everyone has been very helpful in this process so far. We really appreciate it. This is the first time we've applied for anything like this, so we appreciate the guidance.
Would you state your name and address as well, please?
Yeah, my name is Margaret Bodendistel and address is 10729 Lake Ridge Drive.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll open up to commission for any comments or a motion.
Lindsay, do you have a copy with the signature with the applicant?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I probably didn't insert that sheet in there, but I can
Perfect.
grab
Thank you.
that. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve as per staff recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would like to interject the screen porch. I just want to make sure that we get some detailed drawings on that. I hope that the support members aren't red shown in the minutes. So if we can get some more detail on that. I know there's another, I guess, down on the 2nd Street that you all enclosed a porch there as well, screen-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
if you can furnish those details, it'd be much appreciated. So we got a motion and we got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn from the county?
Motion to adjourn?
We got a motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. One last case of business. Since we don't meet regularly as a county unless we have an issue, we are now going to slot that in the January meeting. We will always meet to elect officers. So in January 2025, we will have a regular meeting starting at that time. Is
That's
that correct?
perfect. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, save the date for an annual meeting.
Yeah.
And we can discuss, the advanced Knox process, and the county's new comprehensive plan has some goals for historic resources. So hopefully we can kind of have a discussion about that stuff there, and we'll get our friends in Concord to come and get involved as well.
Okay, thank you, and I'll hand it over to distinguished chair from the city, Mr. Blackburn. Thank you.
Thank you, George. At this time, I'll call to order the city portion of the Historic Zoning Commission. Before we get started, it's my honor to welcome Reverend Renee Kessler as our new commissioner. Renee, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I am the president of the Beck Culture Exchange Center, a little small African American history and culture museum. We'll be celebrating 50 years in 2025, so exciting time for us. I'm also a pastor here in Knoxville, and I'm native Knoxvillian, and I'm very pleased to be here with all of you, so thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. All right, our first case, since our applicants have already sworn the affirmation, we'll just go right into it. Mr. Blackburn, do we need to call the roll? Yes, thank you, Dallas.
You're welcome. Commissioner Blackburn,
I'm here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Eason,
Here.
Commissioner Bradley,
Here.
Commissioner Kelser, Commissioner Hearns,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Randazzo,
Here.
Commissioner Tillman,
Here.
and Commissioner Webster is excused. That's 8 present.
Thank you, Dallas. At this time, we will take a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, to our first case. It's in the 4th and Gill neighborhood. It's at 1028 Luttrell Street, and it is case 9F24-HZ.
Okay, I'm going to run through the level ones real quick. At 1043 Craigland Court, these are the level 1 COAs approved since the last meeting. There were some minor revisions to the existing COA, including revisions to the pool layout to include a spa, revisions to the railings and balustrades, and then a revision to the placement of the secondary stairs on the addition. They'll be in the rear yard, the addition of an outdoor fireplace chimney. That was the Craigland individual H overlay. No new work was proposed on the existing house. It's all related to the new addition and the site work. At 6485 Kingston Pike, related to that broader Knollwood individual landmark, we approved a signage package, including a wall sign, window decals, and a tenant panel. And now, jump to this. Okay, so this is a case that was postponed at the September meeting, so I will run through the scopes of work briefly just as a refresher. This is an exterior rehab project and a rear addition. So there will be a demo of a non-contributing rear addition and the construction of a new 17 by 19-foot rear addition. It's proposed to feature a gable roof clad in asphalt shingles, an exterior of a fiber cement shingle siding, and a parge-coated CMU foundation. Alongside that, there will be a new wooden deck. Then there's an extensive amount of exterior rehab, including the proposed replacement of the windows with new wood double-hung windows in all existing openings, the removal of 2 windows on the rear elevation, and that is called out here in the red. The existing asbestos shingle siding will remain. They're in sections that require patching. The applicant is proposing to patch with a fiber cement shingle siding, new wood soffit and fascia, new wood porch balusters, and then porch ceiling and other sort of in-kind repair and replacement. So I'll run through some of the findings briefly as a refresher. So the new 1-story gable roof addition is proposed. It's proportionate to the primary house. It will extend approximately 17 feet from the main massing of the house. So that's 10 feet from the rear addition. You can see on the site plan, that's the area to be removed, and then this is the proposed addition. So based on the discussion at the September meeting, the applicant has included a proposal for a new window there to contribute additional transparency. The application also includes 2 options in response to the September meeting. The first option cantilevers out 8 inches from the foundation, so you can see that called out kind of here in that bottom corner. And then the second option is just inset 6 inches from the primary house. That first option, in the opinion of staff, that's not compatible with the historic context. It doesn't make the addition secondary to the main house. The application has also includes window replacement. So these windows have been subject to extensive deferred maintenance. They are deteriorated. The applicant has provided specs for 1/1 double hung windows. Replacement, the windows meet the design guidelines, and they will be reinstalling glass into this diamond panel. Responding to discussion at the September meeting, the revised application does include where the double hung windows on this elevation will be replaced with just 1 single double hung window. And we can compare those photos. The 2 windows to be removed are here on the rear elevation. They will not be visible from the right-of-way, so removal of those is appropriate. The other element here is the siding. So in the opinion of staff, the limited patching of fiber cement shingles, especially on less visible elevations, could be appropriate within the guidelines, but the fiber cement shingles should be confirmed to match the asbestos shingles, the existing shingles, in size, thickness, and visual detail. So staff's recommending approval of 9F24HC, subject to the conditions that the new addition be inset from the primary house, the exterior window trim to be repaired and or replaced in kind, the the new siding elements to match the existing shingles in size, thickness, and detail with measurements provided to staff. The porch flooring use tongue and groove wood instead of decking, and a front porch railing detail be submitted to staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant on the line? Can you hear us?
Sarah?
Ms. Morrow, are you on the line with us? All right.
Do you want to move it to the end of the agenda, give her some time?
I mean, that's their fault.
We did it last time, right? Yeah. I'll make a motion to move this item to the end of the agenda.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll go to the next case, and that is at 1112 Gratz Street, again in 4th and Gill neighborhood. The case number is 10A24-HZ.
Okay. This is 1112 Gratz Street. And so what we're reviewing here today is the after-the-fact review of the chimney removal. So this chimney on the left side roof slope and then the stucco-clad chimney on the central roof slope were both removed without permits or a COA. There have been an extensive amount of level 1 scopes that were approved in mid-September. We can discuss those. That one I didn't, so actually I'll just read those because I didn't include that in the level 1 COA. So they're going to replace the roof in kind. They're removing the existing vinyl siding and repairing the wood lap siding underneath. They've removed the non-historic storm windows and are repairing the wood windows below. They are doing some foundation work that will occur on the inside. And then on the front porch, they are removing this vinyl siding on the gable to expose the wood lap siding below. And then they are repairing the existing porch columns and installing flooring, a wood tongue and groove flooring, and a wood beadboard ceiling. So that was another level 1. So the chimneys were removed without permits or a COA. The design guidelines note that chimneys should not be removed or altered if they are original and should match the original design if they must be replaced or have been removed. So this front chimney that's on the roof slope, the stack itself may not be original to the structure. It is taller and thinner than typical, and it's constructed of CMU. However, their fireplace and mantle were located on the interior wall, indicating the chimney's location as original. Both chimneys are visible from the street. So the staff recommendation would be denial of the chimney removal and reconstruction of the 2 chimneys with a size and design to reflect the originals or similar, with details submitted to staff.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant online with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. Would you like to add any comments to what Lindsay shared with us?
Yes, I sent in a presentation, and Lindsay said that she could pull that up.
Yes, she's got that on the screen now.
Okay. I was aware of the guidelines, and I was, in my opinion, and it seems that the staff agrees, that the chimneys were not original, so I did not believe I was in violation of the guidelines when I removed the chimneys. From the interior of the home, you could not even see the chimney. It was covered in wood siding or wood paneling. And the brick below is just faux painted to look like brick. It's not actually original brick. So on the interior and the exterior, there's nothing original about this chimney visible. The home overall was in very poor condition when I purchased it, and it has needed extensive repairs. Lindsay, if you could go to the next slide. All of the soffits and were patched with, there was just a significant amount of damage to the roof. There was a lot of patching, there were holes, the roof was leaking, especially around the chimneys, and it was bringing water into the home. The foundation at the rear of the home needs extensive repair. The estimates I've received so far are anywhere from $13,000 to $16,000 to get the foundation stabilized at the rear of the house. The lap siding underneath the vinyl needed extensive repair. We had to do a lot of patching, and the fireplace wall, Lindsay, if you could go back up, where that fireplace was, that entire wall was rotted out. Even the base plate was rotted out. So we had to basically rebuild that entire wall because there was so much water damage to that wall where that chimney was. Okay, if you could go to the next slide. The home does have all its original windows. Not in some cases, some of the divided lights on the upper were removed, but those are all being repaired so that they would go back to the original style of the home. So far, we've been able to repair 4 windows that you can see there on the right. Okay, next. We did repair all of the soffit back to the original tongue and groove throughout the house. So from the outside, you don't see that plywood patching anymore. Next slide. We did finish repairing the porch, got the columns and railings repaired, and the tongue and groove decking, and got that painted. And then we are also in the process of painting the entire home to a color that is consistent with the neighborhood. And the roof has been replaced at this point so that the home is now secured from any further water damage. So I would ask that since the chimneys were not original to the home, I don't even have an original comparison to go by, and that putting the chimneys back would just create an intrusion into those roofs, into the roof, and it would create a maintenance issue, and it really, the scope of work on this house to get it back to close to its original condition is quite extreme, and I have a hard time seeing how adding the chimneys back would be a benefit to the house, and it seems it would be a long-term maintenance issue and detriment to the house.
All right, thank you. Do we have comments from the neighborhood rep?
I believe he's on Zoom.
Hi, this is Aaron Streeter. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Aaron Streeter, 925 Eleanor Street, representing 4th and Gill. The neighborhood is in agreement with staff recommendation. Some of the neighbors on that street I've gotten calls from because they feel very, very strongly about the chimneys. I guess that's pretty much all I would like to relay.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. All right, at this time, we'll open up the floor to the board for conversation, comments, or questions.
I have a question for the owner. When she purchased the property, did she receive a copy of the guidelines?
I did, and that's why I did not feel I was in violation, because to me it was obvious the chimneys were not original to the home.
Okay, so you did have a copy, and so you knew the chimneys were not supposed to be removed if they were original.
Right.
So are you saying that you failed to check to confirm that they weren't original?
I felt it was pretty obvious that they were not original.
Okay, so you did not check ahead of time, even though you had the guidelines stating that you should not remove them if they're original?
You mean check with the Historic Zoning Commission?
Yes.
Correct. Yes, I did fail to do that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for the owner, a clarification. Were both chimneys constructed with CMU with a brick facing?
Neither had brick facing. They were CMU
They were only CMU.
above the roof line. Yes.
So is that like a,
I had spoken with the prior owner. After I purchased the house, she came by and talked to me about the house, and she said, they repaired those chimneys over and over. They repaired the roof over and over, and they could never get the house to not leak around the chimneys. And she lived there she lived there since her parents bought the home I think it was early 90s. And so she had a lot of time in this home. And she made me aware of the amount of work they tried to do to repair the chimneys and repair the roof to prevent leaks. And she said it was a constant issue for their family.
So we're just looking at some weathered CMU. Was it painted black, or is that just like?
If you go to the photo with it on the ground,
Yeah.
I think it's just, weather over time.
Okay.
There is a picture somewhere with the block on the ground.
Yeah, I see that now. And below the roof, was it brick?
Yeah, it was brick, but it was behind that wood paneling. And then when I took the wood paneling down, the wood around that was just completely deteriorated. And the bricks you could just pick up by hand. There was no structure integrity to them at all.
Was it a CMU behind the brick below the roof line? So did the facing just fall off as it went through the roof?
Yeah, the CMU started somewhere in the ceiling
Okay, so it switched
and went up. Yeah.
a historic fireplace to a CMU.
Shaft.
Yeah, shaft. I've never seen a
Right.
chimney like this. Sorry. Did it have a brick foundation beneath it, like in the basement? Is it a conventional historic brick foundation?
Yes, I think so.
Is that still intact?
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, you can just pick up these bricks by hand.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess I have a question. My next question is for Lindsay or Hallie or someone with NPS guideline knowledge. I kept thinking this was a repair originally, like the previous owners had made a repair, but they obviously didn't make a guideline compliant repair with this CMU chimney. If a different house had taken down a historic chimney and were to rebuild it, say in an after fact review, could they rebuild it with a CMU flue and then a non-load bearing conventional brick facing that appeared historic with a white cementitious mortar? Would that be compliant if someone tried to do that today?
So I don't think the guidelines are that specific. I think this is a unique kind of situation where you have an original portion below the roof line and a clear insensitive repair above the roof line. I think the concern from the neighborhood is that there should be a chimney of some sort there. But does it have to match the terrible one that was there before? Probably not.
The relevant Fourth and Gill design guideline just says chimneys should not be removed or altered if they are original and should match the original design if they must be replaced or have been removed.
Reading that last line back in my head. I guess what I was getting at is in the past, in other neighborhoods, we've authorized repairs that are not where they're not historic construction, but historic appearance. We've even done a faux chimney before that was framed out of plywood with a brick facing. And if someone were to try to remove that years later, they would say, oh, this isn't historic, this isn't even a real chimney. But it's something that appearance-wise is in rhythm with the neighborhood and with the guidelines. And so I'm wondering if we start removing poor repairs that are made, that some have some historic significance, are we undermining the guidelines themselves? Sorry, it's a bit of a rant. I'll just hang up and listen.
I would just point back to the staff recommendation that says to either reflect the original design or similar houses in the neighborhood. I think that gives a lot of leeway as to what could go back there. I mean, clearly, that's way taller than all the other houses around what was there before.
Other questions or comments, board?
I guess my last concern would be, I'm not sure if our commission is allowed to enforce a reconstruction that wasn't there previously. If there wasn't a brick chimney there, are we allowed to require that be constructed? You know, in theory, we could ask that the CMU be reconstructed as it were. That's not great, but that may be what the neighborhood would prefer. I don't know, I feel like we're between different rules here.
Could I comment on that a little bit?
Yes, please.
I think I generally agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Tillman, that if the CMU chimney had never been removed and the choice had been made to restore that, the neighborhood would be left with a CMU chimney, obviously. So I think it should, in fairness, kind of be the applicant's choice. But obviously, if it was originally a brick chimney, the neighborhood would prefer a brick chimney as being more historically appropriate. But I agree, in fairness, it isn't something you can necessarily require to be put back in a way that it wasn't previously.
What we're talking about, though, is a non-operational decorative chimney, right?
Correct.
So would the compromise be, as Commissioner Tillman suggested, perhaps a wood-framed, shorter decorative chimney with maybe a face brick on it that would match the neighborhood? I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there.
I would
Well,
say,
this is the owner of, from the neighbors I spoke with as I, was in the neighborhood working on the house. They've considered this home a blight for quite some time to their neighborhood, and they were all my impression from the neighborhood was that they were quite pleased that my intent was to restore the home to its original lap siding, restore all the windows, give it a paint color that was consistent with the neighborhood. I think it's evident I've made every effort to try to treat this home with the love and respect it deserves. My concern with the chimney is the long-term maintenance. I intend to own this home for a very long time and pass it on to my children. And I'm just very concerned about intruding that roof again and creating a long-term maintenance issue. If there's an alternative solution that would bring this home the character that is in keeping with the neighborhood, I am open to doing that. But again, practically the intrusion to the roof is my main concern in terms of the maintenance, and especially since, I don't even have a guideline to go by of what was originally there.
First of all, I'd like to commend you as the owner for the improvements that you've made. I don't think that I've seen such good window repair come in front of this commission. So you've done a lot of good work, and we can see that. The conversation we're having about keeping the integrity of the exterior of the home is important as it relates to the houses next to it. I think before we've talked about rebuilding or making a faux chimney, but that's hard for us to approve without greater neighborhood conversation. I would like to hear from the 4th and Guild neighborhood and board if they would like to go against their guidelines. We would need to hear that from the neighborhood for us to be able to do so.
And I'm not sure I'm even a fan of faux chimneys. I think I watched the meeting before I joined years ago. Commissioner Kessler, I'm not sure if you watched last month's to just see what you're getting into. And in Old North Knoxville, in that neighborhood, this commission approved a plywood chimney with, I'm pretty sure, like a peel and stick brick that was high up above a second level roof, and it looked like a chimney. And I was sitting there thinking like, would I approve this? It's not in the guidelines. I'm not sure if it's right. But the idea being if someone wanted to remove that later, well, this is clearly not historic. This is, just a fake chimney, and we're kind of going back now like, hey, this is clearly not a historic chimney, but someone was trying to recreate something and they kind of failed. Yeah, so I'm not even sure if the neighborhood would like that or even if I think that's a good idea or not.
I also wanted to narrow down our conversation. There's two chimneys that we're talking about. We've kind of only been talking about the main one. Aaron, does the neighborhood have opinion on the second chimney?
The neighborhood is, I guess, just to be clear on that as possible, the staff recommendation mentions both, and the neighborhood was in support of staff recommendation. So obviously the one is far more prominent, but the neighborhood would prefer that both chimneys exist.
I just want to add that I believe in grace, but I'm going back to pictures back to 1959, and those two chimneys were there. So whether the main chimney looked different or the integrity of it, whatever had changed, just a little bit of extra research would have shown you that there were two original chimneys in that spot all the way back to 1959. And I just think we need to be very careful about allowing people to break the rules when they have the rules in their hands and say, well, I'll just go back and get slapped on the wrist later. We just need to think about that.
I have to answer that. That was not my intention.
Ma'am, I was not speaking. I was talking to the commissioners.
Okay,
Ma'am, I'm speaking. So I think we as commissioners need to just really think about that. We want to offer grace, but we need to look at every situation individually and make decisions. And we want to make sure we're not making decisions that the neighborhoods come back and look at us and think that we're not necessarily supporting and protecting these guidelines that we've been brought here to do. So we just need to figure out a balance in that. Jennifer, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a question for the applicant about the conditions of the lesser chimney that we haven't really discussed. What were the conditions you found for the materiality and the construction going down into the house with that one? Was it clear? Was it in the same condition? How was it constructed?
It was behind a wall, so you couldn't even see it inside the house. But once we got into the roof, the water was getting in around that chimney, and as well as the front chimney, and was all of the roof downstream, so to speak, of that chimney was deteriorated. It was basically causing the same issue. Both chimneys, were interior to the home. They weren't on the outside of the home. They were up against wood frame walls.
I would like to comment. I think, in my opinion, this current owner removed what was not an original chimney. I think it was the previous owner that actually should have gotten approval for rebuilding the chimney when they rebuilt it as EMU. So I believe, reading the guidelines, that this current owner removed a non-original chimney.
A question to the applicant. You mentioned that the sheeting for the roof had been repaired and the shingles had been replaced, but I assume that the majority of the structure, like a substrate underneath that, was kept in situ?
Do you mean the structure for the roof?
Yes.
There were many places in the roof where the original the support for the roof in many places was fine. Most of the damage to the roof where the plywood patching was around the chimneys and around the closer to the fascia, because the gutters, were in poor condition and just weren't, the water was looping back on to the home. So most of as you get further and further up on the roof, the structure was in pretty good condition. They did strip the roof. I do have a picture of the roof stripped from one side, and you can tell that most of that side was in pretty good condition. And they were able to re-shingle over that. But they did a lot of plywood. They put back with tongue and groove where you can see it under the soffit. So all the soffit looks like the original tongue and groove. And then they repaired the rest of it with plywood sheeting where you can't see it from the soffit. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I was mostly wondering about how much sheathing had been removed and replaced or repaired. And
yeah, it was mostly around where the chimneys were and around the where the soffit ended and the roof began.
So, I mean, since the removal of the chimneys, there is new sheathing in place above them that you could, I mean, there is no reason if this motion, if the staff recommendation were to carry, I mean, fireplaces, chimneys, they're built all the time. Like, there's no reason if we cut through new sheathing and flash it appropriately that you would be dealing with the same problems that you had prior.
And I'd just clarify, the level 1 COA that was issued did not include roof replacement, just because typically when the item is on the agenda related to the chimney, we wouldn't approve administratively somebody installing new cladding above the hole where the chimney was removed.
We did have a conversation by email about that.
Yes, and yes.
And I did say, if that was the commission's decision, we could punch through a chimney.
Yep.
But the whole house was open to elements at that point. I really couldn't wait because there's original wood floors in the home, and they were getting rain on them, and and they were starting to experience damage. So, there was some damage already, but it was going to continue if we didn't get a new roof on the house.
I believe we've had somewhat thorough discussion. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Eason that we can't, or that these were not original, and I believe that we can't enforce building back what wasn't there previously. And with that reason, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. We'll try it this way first. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Mitchell?
Oh, I was just getting ready to.
Okay.
So we decided that the rear chimney was not real as well? Okay.
Yeah, the same for both, was my reasoning.
All right. And we'll call the motion. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. No, aye.
Dallas, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Blackburn? Commissioner Blackburn. Commissioner Eason?
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley?
Yes.
Commissioner Kessler?
I'd like to abstain.
Commissioner Hearns?
No.
Commissioner Mitchell?
No.
Commissioner Randazzo?
No.
Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
That's 3 yes, 4 no.
Thank you very much. All right.
So we need another motion.
I'm It's cold in here. So let's try again. Do we have another motion?
I have a question. Because this is a thorny issue. We're asking them to replace something that, I don't think anyone here or in the neighborhood wants her to duplicate what was actually there at this point. And it does get rather sticky on what type of guidelines can be enforced with that. Would it be appropriate to deny the removal of the chimneys, but subject to like a workshop review or something that the neighborhood, us, get together with the applicant and come up with a solution that is as close to making all parties happy as possible? Is that even an option, or is it just, that might not even be our purview. We simply enforce that it must be replaced, and that's up to the applicant. I'm not sure.
I would think a postponement would also be an option too, wouldn't it?
Sure, a postponement is an option as well. Commissioner Bradley, to your point, I think it's probably not best to condition based on having a workshop, but that can definitely be a strong suggestion to the applicant before resubmitting for any future work.
Postponement would allow them to have further discussion with the neighborhood, though, correct?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we postpone this application for 30 days.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? If not, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Here we go. Next case is at 830 Deary Street. It is case number 10D-24HZ.
Okay. So this is the enclosure of an existing back porch that will take place within the existing foundation and roof line. So there's a rendering of the existing porch and a photograph of that porch. The new section will feature 6x6 square columns with capitals and base trend, 9 3-light casement windows, and a wood knee board beneath the windows. So in general, the proposed porch enclosure will occur within an existing foundation and roof line. It won't be visible from the right-of-way, so placement of that is appropriate. The addition uses materials that are compatible with the original structure, and it's sufficiently differentiated from the primary structure. So staff's recommending approval of 10D-24HZ as submitted.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yeah, Sean Martin with Open Door Architecture. We're located at 800 Luttrell Street, 37917.
Thank you. Sean, anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
No, I think that was a good overview. I'll just say, as you saw in the picture, there's an existing porch, the foundation and the roof. We want to work within that from both a historic and a budgetary perspective, really. So the idea is just to infill what is now an open porch to become a little sunroom. So, yeah, happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Aaron, are you still on the line? Would you like to comment?
Yes, sir. I have heard no comments of concern from the neighborhood. I think it's safe to say that the neighborhood is in support of staff recommendation.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll open the floor up for the commission for any comments or questions. If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next case is in Old North Knox. It's at 217 East Scott, and it is case 10C-24-HZ.
Okay, Okay, so this is a modification to the previously issued COA. This is related to the accessory dwelling unit, the secondary structure at the house. So the applicant has revised the design of the secondary structure to change the dormer on the west elevation. So this window was previously a gable roof, and now it has a shed roof. And the materials and dimensions remain the same. So this is the exterior rehab project, including the new secondary structure, was approved in March. And the revised design includes a dormer consistent with the other and the overall design. The secondary structure is compatible with that primary structure, and they're responding to some requirements from the zoning code related to height of secondary structures. So staff's recommending approval of 10C 24HC as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Sean, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, Sean Martin, Open Door Architecture. As Lindsay mentioned, this design was submitted before, and when we got into building permit review with plans review and inspections with the city, they noted that the previous design, which had a gable dormer, the way they're kind of calculating the overall building height for these accessory dwelling units has changed slightly from the way they used to do it, because we've gotten a gable dormer on a similar design approved several years ago. But now the way they're thinking about that has changed, and so the gable dormer exceeded the height, so we basically tweaked it to become a shed dormer, which kind of matches the one on the other side. Otherwise, everything else has remained the same on the design, so just sort of a reaction to that city review comment. But.
Okay, thank you. Is the neighborhood rep on the line? Or do we have comments?
Sorry. Sean Bullen is not able to join us, and they are in support of the staff recommendation.
All right, thank you. Open the floor up to the board for any questions, comments.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Edgewood Park City now at 1909 Washington Avenue. This is case 10F-24HZ.
Okay, this is the exterior rehab of an existing secondary structure, converting a garage to an accessory dwelling unit. So they're replacing an existing non-historic metal roof with an asphalt shingle roof cladding. They will replace the existing 1/1 double hung windows with new wood 1/1 double hung windows on the south elevation. That's facing the rear of the house. And then they're replacing this wood door with a new 4-light door on the east elevation. This garage door opening, you can see it open in the photo on the right. It'll be enclosed with a wood-clad full-light door on the right side. And then they will be removing the plywood siding and the gable fields and replace that with wood shakes. So we can see the site plan here calling out the accessory dwelling unit and then the drawings that they've provided. So overall, all of this work is concentrated on the secondary structure. There's no work proposed for the main house. The National Register nomination does have a contributing secondary structure associated with this property. However, the description is very different from what is there. This is a one-story CMU garage with a CMU exterior. Overall, the scope of work meets the guidelines. The roofing, windows, and doors are appropriate for the context. Replacing that sliding door opening with additional transparency will contribute to the structure. There's no historic materials to be modified, so staff's recommending approval of 10F-24HC as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant on the line with us? Mr. Smith?
I do not see them.
Okay. Yeah. Is the neighborhood rep available?
I have not received comment on this one.
Okay. Then we'll just go right to the commission for comments or questions, if any.
I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next case, we're still in Edgewood Park City. It's 1800 Jefferson Avenue, and it's case 10G-24-HZ. I think Commissioner Randazzo is recusing herself. Lindsay?
Okay. So this is the removal of some windows and then a shifting of the door in the window. So the applicant is proposing to remove two 1/1 double hung windows on the east elevation. There's some interior photos in your application packet. And then 4 1/1 double hung aluminum windows on the west elevation. They have proposed a new 1/1 double hung aluminum clad wood windows as the replacements. And then on the west elevation, these two center windows are proposed to be reduced in height by approximately 20 inches. On the rear elevation door is going to be shifted to the location of that adjacent window. And there's a photograph of that aluminum window, and there's a floor plan in the application packet. So all the work will be completed on the secondary elevations. The door to be moved is on the rear elevation and will not be visible from the right-of-way. The windows that are proposed to be replaced are not original to the house. The guidelines recommend replacement windows be the same overall size, pane division, Muntin style, and depth, width, and profile. They don't specifically reference material. Also, the newer guidelines do reference that alternative materials may be considered as long as they meet that same criteria. So based on these guidelines, the proposed aluminum clad wood is appropriate. On this elevation on your screen, the windows are proposed to be reduced in length by 20 inches to accommodate the kitchen fixtures below. Design guidelines typically discourage modifying the size of original windows. The HCC has approved these on a case-by-case basis. The windows proposed to be shortened. They will be somewhat visible from the right-of-way. You can see that from the street. They will not be removed entirely. There are similarly placed side elevation windows on adjacent houses that are shorter than those on the facade. So the commission should discuss this size reduction. So providing for any discussion on the east elevation windows, the staff recommends approval of 10G-24HC as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Hi there, Gudaras Khalsa, Dharma Properties, 5923 Kingston Pike, Suite 174.
Thank you. Anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
Nope, that's pretty thorough. The only comment that I would make is that there, like she mentioned, there have been other instances of windows in the neighborhood being shortened, along with other windows in similar locations behind kitchen counters that have not been shortened. That has, in some cases, caused some instability structurally, just because they're not aligned properly above countertops that can cause any number of issues, so.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have anything from the neighborhood rep?
I did not receive any comments.
All right. I'll open the floor up to the board for questions or comments for the applicant.
I don't have any issue with reducing these specific windows. They're on a side elevation. They're in a, not a separate massing, but that gable section, I feel like, is enough differentiation. Maybe it would be different if it was right next to a full-size, original-size window, but I think that's why we review these on a case-by-case basis.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second it.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. All those or any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next case is in the Fairmont Emery land. You can see it, Emery land. It's at 1916 Emery Land Boulevard at case 10E-24HZ.
Okay. This is these are additions, a sort of series of additions here. So there is a front addition. It's to the east elevation, adjacent to the facade of the house. It will be recessed 1 foot, 5.5 inches from the front facade of the house, and it will feature and I'll run through those, a gable roof with an 8/12 pitch, an exterior brick veneer, and 2 bays of 9/9 double hung windows to match the existing, including the sills, the trim, the header arch. And they have some details, elements here that are carried over from the main house. And so you can see the photographs of the existing condition of the house here. There is also a covered porch addition, which I'm highlighting in my cursor here. On the east elevation, it will have a 2/12 pitch roof and a shed roof that'll just sort of extend out towards the rear of the house. Then there is a garage addition, which you can see on the elevations here. The garage will measure 25 feet wide by 36 feet 1 inches deep. It'll have a 6/12 pitch hipped roof, an exterior brick cladding, and 3 garage bays facing the east side elevation. Then there's also a addition proposed to the rear. So you can see it's this section here. And it'll be 32 feet 3 inches wide, and it'll have a 6/12 pitch hipped roof. You can see the roof line drawings there. And an exterior brick cladding. The project also includes a new driveway extending off Emeryland Boulevard, leading to a 32 feet wide parking pad area outside of the 3-car garage. So I'll run through some of the findings. The proposed additions are significantly large in footprint. They're approximately doubling the overall square footage of the house. The design guidelines recommend that additions are placed on the side or rear of buildings. They discourage additions to the front. The proposed rear addition and garage additions meet the guidelines for placement. The east side addition is only set back by 1 foot 5.5 inches. It almost doubles the facade width. The guidelines note that if additions are made to the existing building, they should be located at least 5 feet behind the front facade. The front addition is not sufficiently differentiated and should be revised in placement. The materials on all additions are compatible with the existing house. The guidelines in terms of garages recommend that the doors of garages that are attached don't face Emeryland Boulevard. And they should be located at least 15 feet behind the front facade. So the design does meet these design guidelines. The garage will be large in scale. It'll be visible from the street due to the adjacent vacant property that's a TVA or a KUB sort of easement there. 3-car garages are typically not in character with historic neighborhoods, and the guidelines recommend, and the Secretary of the Interior standards recommend that new additions be compatible with the massing, size, and scale of the existing house. So the commission should discuss the massing of the proposed garage. Guidelines also recommend that driveways be as narrow as possible, and the proposed driveway is within that. The parking pad outside the garage is relatively large. Additional landscaping and screening may serve to obscure the large garage and the parking pad. So the commission should discuss the overall massing of the garage addition and the proposed front and east side addition. Pending input or additional conditions, the conditions of approval should include the front east side addition should be revised in placement to meet the design guidelines, and then additional landscaping planting should be included in the final site plan along that east side property line to serve as screening for the new garage and the parking pad.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant online with us?
This is Joseph Goldman, and I am with DIA Homes as the architect.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
Just a couple comments, and also with me is Anita Davis, who is the owner, and I think she'd like to speak a little bit as well. I would like to add first that the current lot has also been replatted as a double-sized lot, so the lot itself has doubled. And at this time, if it's okay, I'd like Anita to speak a little bit about her ownership and history with the house and what she was looking to achieve, if that's okay and appropriate.
Sure, go right ahead.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
Good. So this home has been in my family since the 1930s. My grandfather moved to Knoxville from Texas to open up the Dr. Pepper bottling company. And we have, my family has maintained this home to date. My husband and I moved away from Tennessee in 1990, and we want to come back home. And we've always wanted to retire in this home. It just hasn't been big enough for our needs. We currently live in a large house in Pennsylvania and have a lot of, belongings and things that we don't necessarily want to part with. We chose a 3-car garage because we have 3 cars and don't necessarily want to park on the street. I don't think that adds value really to the neighborhood. And so, we, over the years, my family has tried to maintain this home in a very beautiful way. And we're very proud to move back home, but need to sort of do it on our terms, if possible.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Is the neighborhood rep?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No.
This is Joseph. So in part of that programming, and of course we had the guidelines. If you don't mind to go to sheet A101, which is the floor plan, up I think one more, and I appreciate your patience. One more sheet. Thank you so much. Part of the front addition interest is the sitting room off of the main living space, and it was the appropriate place for that sitting room. So we looked at the guidelines, understanding the recommendation to stay back 5 feet, and they're trying to minimize our impact on the existing structure. Below that sitting room, you'll notice is the kitchen, which has the large window out of the sink and a little door that goes outside. So we looked at pushing it back and really couldn't get that program to fit there. And so our thought was, well, centering that new addition in the gable, bringing in the width of the gable to make it smaller. So if you don't mind, I'm sorry, go one more sheet down, A201, or no, I'm sorry, one more. On the bottom right, our thought was maybe appropriate solution is to reduce the scale of that gable, bring it down, set it back where we can, but let it feel at least appropriate in proportion to the main. Let it be reduced to let the main frontage of the house still be prominent. I mean, also in doing that, because we've doubled the lot and we're adding that addition to the back, this front homage of addition also helps screen some of what's happening towards the back of the house, as well as additional landscaping that would be brought in. So, I appreciate your kind of reviewing this and understanding that those were our intentions to this. I don't know that I can shift it or rotate it. And so just trying to achieve that while trying to also complement the bigger goal of what we're trying to preserve. So I just wanted to make that point.
All right, thank you. Lindsay, anything from the neighborhood rep?
So I did forward the email from Mr. Steve Cottom, the neighborhood representative, and I would recommend going back to the email because he included some really interesting history of the house, but I'll repeat the elements that have to do with the case itself. He said, first, I would like to applaud the care and preservation of the house. The applicant and her family have owned the property for decades and maintained it beautifully. The house must be nearly 100 years old since it was already completed by 1930. And then he said, I have only two suggestions in regards to the plans. The first is that the addition on the street side of the structure be moved back a few feet to make the addition to the older house more obvious. The second is to consider reducing the attached 3-car garage to a 2-car garage, and he noted that historically almost all houses in the neighborhood had a small freestanding garage in the rear of the lot.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open up the floor for any questions or comments.
I'd like to comment. I think the sunroom addition is nicely detailed. If it's possible to set that back, I think that would be great. But I think the detailing is very nice. And I appreciate that the family has maintained this home, like Mr. Cottom said, for so many decades. My concern is definitely with the 3-car garage. I think the addition, this is a lovely home and it's a small home, but the addition is equal or greater than the footprint of the original house. And I think, like Mr. Cottom said, in this neighborhood, most of the homes don't have garages. If they do have garages, they're detached garages. There are only a couple of instances of homes that have attached garages, and none of those are 3-car. Those are typically 2-car max. And so I think the garage addition is just too much.
My comment, I have a question for the applicant. It looks like there's an existing driveway to the west or the south of the property. Is that in use by this property, or is that entirely the neighbors? Is it shared?
So that driveway is it's an interesting and good question. It is shared, but it is retained by the, it is supposed to be shared, and there's enough on one side to allow the house adjacent to use that driveway. But it is not, I believe, technically considered shared easement. I think it stays ownership to the current homeowner, Davis's. So I believe they are in communication with the adjacent owner on that use after abandonment, to your question.
Is the plan to keep it?
No, the owner will not keep that as their drive on their lot. They can't, for zoning reasons, they're only allowed to have one driveway. So they have to abandon that. And I believe they're in discussions with how that would then work with the neighbor's drive.
Okay. And I guess I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner and neighborhood comments about the garage being a separate structure, maybe more compliant. And then I'm still concerned about the front addition and the 5-foot minimum setback requirement in the guidelines.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Joseph again. The only other thing I'd note, the owner had reviewed this with myself, Todd Davis, who's not on the line, but we did note that I think within a block and a half or so, they did identify 4 or 5 houses with 3-car garages and had sent me some photos of those houses and the locations and wanted those to at least be considered. I didn't have time to share that with you. I don't know if I can share that now, but they wanted me to bring that up as well for consideration.
Can you give us some context on those other 4 houses? Are they the same age and time period as this house?
To be honest with you, I don't know about the age and time period. I have the locations relevant to this house. Is there a way for me to share that with you now, Lindsay, or no?
No, we typically don't let folks share their screen, but if you want to tell me an
Sure.
address, I can pull it up. I would recommend keeping the addresses focused to ones that are in the overlay, though. So if you're familiar with that boundary, that'd be helpful.
I believe they are. So would you like me to email that to you? I'm
You
sorry.
can just tell me the address and I can pull it up on Street View.
Oh, sure. Okay, great. Hold on one moment, please. The addresses that I have, I'm looking for in close proximity here. So I'm going to read these. I don't have the kind of map of where they are, but I'm going to start with 1736 Emeryland Boulevard. And if you could go to a street view if you'd like to, if possible, and you can see the 3-car garage there. It's at the end there. There's also 1701 and more land, although they have a 3-car garage in the back of house. I don't know that that's visible from the street. 2221 Fairmont Boulevard, that's a street frontage facing 3-car garage. Kind of right behind, it faces Fairmont, or I'm sorry, yeah, Orlando.
Okay, I think that's probably enough. I think that's good.
Okay.
So anyway, bottom line is, I apologize. He sent this to me. I want to share this with you in the context that it is fairly close to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think we get the idea. Thank you.
I have a question. If we were to postpone this to give you another shot to take a look at alternative massing, alternative placement of things, is that something that you would be open to?
Of course, I'm always open to look at solutions for that. Anita, as the owner, would you be acceptable in terms of timeline? I assume that would be presented at the next board meeting, or is that something that would be reviewed, in between?
It would be at the next, at the November meeting.
Okay.
Provided that you got the information to Lindsay within the deadline.
Sure. I guess I would let Anita speak in terms of the schedule of the project and time to do that.
I'm open to reviewing recommendations.
Thank you.
And I think it benefits the board in clarity for references to be included in the application with photos that you provide and your comments, because not all of these 3-car garages in the neighborhood are going to be the same. Some are going to be compliant in some ways and not compliant in others. Some are going to be outside the historic district, adjacent, attached to different houses. I think that context is important, and if you could lay that out in an application, I'd appreciate it.
Of course.
But I'm inclined. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm good. I apologize. You're good.
I'm inclined to postpone as well. I would like to see alternatives that are more within the guidelines, perhaps a detached garage and that front addition setback rule being followed. Despite the house, I think the design is very nice. I would like it, but I don't think it follows the guidelines, and I don't think I could approve this design.
Is that a motion?
I can make it unless there's further discussion. Okay, I'll make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? Sure.
So we're giving them time to think about the staff recommendations?
Yes.
And they're going to also consider the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right. All those in favor of postponement until next month? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Ms. Davis. We'll see you next month, hopefully. All right. Fort Sanders is our next case at 1724 Highland Avenue. It's case 10-H-24-HZ.
Okay, so this is exterior rehab and a rear addition. The existing rear addition will be partially removed, and there's an exterior stair on the side elevation that will be removed. There's some photos in your application packet, and I've got the drawings here. So the exterior rehab scopes include the removal of the existing siding and the installation of new fiber cement lap siding, repair and replacement and patches to the foundation, and the replacement of windows and doors. The application includes a new window on the facade. The front porch will be reconstructed. So the applicant is proposing to reconstruct a partial width front gable roof to a full front gable roof, and that porch will feature 4 tapered brick columns and a new railing. There's also a new dormer addition that will be added to the rear roof slope, featuring a exterior clad in lap and shingle siding and 2 pairs of double hung windows on the rear elevation. So the application includes the removal of the partial width front gable roof on the front porch and reconstructing a new porch with a full-length front gable roof, and then tapered brick-clad columns to match the existing. So based on the Sanborn Fire Insurance maps, the width of the existing porch roof, it's a partial gable, is original. And then there's a brick knee wall that looks to be a later addition. So the porch width, the pitch, and the roof design should be retained in reconstructing the porch. The window pattern on the side elevations, including a projecting bay here, will all be retained. An extra window is proposed currently for the facade right about here, but the facade window and door arrangements should be retained as well. In general, within the Fort Sanders guidelines, the placement of a new addition on the rear roof slope is appropriate. The height of the new dormer addition should not exceed the roof peak of the house's original side gable roof to reduce visibility from the street. The applicant should also clarify the proposed siding for the rear dormers. The elevations show single shingles, and then there's lap siding on the rear, so one siding may be preferable for design consistency. So staff's recommending approval of 10H 24HC subject to the conditions that the final site plan meet city engineering standards and requirements of the base zoning. The porch width, roof pitch, and roof design be retained. The omission of the new window proposed for the facade, and then the height of the dormer addition be at or below the roof peak on the main roof line.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant here?
Morning, John Holmes, 5914 Gray Gables Drive. Thank you, Lindsay. It was a good introduction there. I would add, so at the rear of the property, I'm removing 2 foot of the existing house to shrink that a little bit. The rear dormer height will not exceed the existing peak. It will be either equal to or below that. The siding, I'm open to whatever the board's preference is on that dormer. We did a similar one a couple doors down, which was lap siding. This house has a lot of shaker style in the existing gables, so shaker might be more appropriate in this application, but either shaker or lap is fine. The front porch, can you show that original picture, Lindsay? We kind of went back and forth and talked quite a bit with the neighborhood rep here. Most of Fort Sanders does have like the large front porches. The Sanborn map shows like the kind of the existing on the left. On the right, it's hard to tell. It looks like the lower part of the foundation is original, like the first maybe 30 inches. Above that is unusual. It's a 2-course historic brick, which is kind of dead ends. So it could be there was an old addition there. I really don't know. It's hard to tell. So we propose to extend that front porch and basically carry it over the full width, and that's what prompted adding that window on the right side. The 2 columns that you see there, they're not the same size, and they'll need to be rebuilt either way, and they were probably, I think a lot of repairs were done sometime in the 2006 timeframe from what we could find from the previous owner. So.
Is that all?
That's all.
All right, thank you, John. Anything from the neighborhood rep?
I don't have additional comments from the neighborhood rep, but they had provided some input to the applicant directly.
Okay. All right, we'll open the floor up to the commission for questions or comments.
I have a question for the applicant. Is the plan to have siding between the top of the front porch, like the beam, the entablature, and the soffit fascia? Is that just a drafting oversight?
This is drafting oversight. It'd be just 1 by 12 smooth board.
Okay.
I have a clarification. Lindsay, do you need information about the siding as well? Should that be added as an additional condition?
It could be, and it can just be discussed. Both of the proposed are within the design guidelines, so I hadn't included a specific condition about that, but just wanted to call attention to that on the drawings.
Okay.
Just a quick comment on the rear. I would prefer to see the rear dormer dormer, the peak of that rear dormer be slightly lower than the existing ridge line, if that's possible. I think that would help distinguish it as a secondary feature.
There's enough head height here to drop at least 6 inches with no issues at all. Yeah.
I'm curious if any of the architects here that are more familiar with craftsman style have any thoughts on this, I don't want to say original, the existing porch size, this 2-column width versus what the applicant is proposing, a 4-column. It looks unique, but I'm not sure if that's historically significant.
I would say it would be a character defining feature of this particular home. It is a 2/3 width porch, which is pretty common for craftsman style. It may not be in this particular neighborhood, but it is consistent with craftsman style, just from an architectural historian perspective.
No, I agree, and I'm also in support of keeping the original porch dimensions and massing as opposed to the 4-column scheme.
Mr. Holmes, did you have any other specific reason for widening the porch to 4 columns? Or are you just trying to match the foundation, or?
I think it was mainly to match the foundation and what was on that right-hand side, and then it was, well, what do you do with the right-hand side then when you leave that? Do you just chop it off, or do you have an open air, non-enclosed portion? That was kind of what was driving that.
Okay. Are you okay with leaving it open air? I mean,
I'm okay with leaving it as is, and then we would just, like I said, we just need to figure out what to do on that right-hand side.
okay. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve based on all 4 staff recommendations. Do I need to read those out if they were there? Okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd like to clarify, in condition 2, it says existing/original porch. It could be argued the original porch was wider, and but that's not what you intend. Okay. And I would also like to clarify if you're about condition 4 being equal or beneath. Okay.
Do we need to revise that then to address those words?
It'd probably be most helpful and clear for the record.
Okay. So then I make a motion to approve per staff recommendations with revisions to item number 2, that it be the design of the original porch to be retained, which is existing and original. And that number 4 be equal to or beneath the roof peak.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any further discussion from the commission?
I had a preference for item 4 to be beneath rather than equal to. I don't know if that's.
So are you accepting that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Let's get a second and then vote, yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
Are we good, Christine? Okay, all right. Seeing no further discussion, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Holmes. All right, we have to revisit our first case that had been postponed. This is at 1028 Luttrell at 4th and Gill, and it is case N-F-24HZ.
And the applicant I've kind of gone through the staff recommendation and the findings, and we can discuss that further. I can go back through things if you guys would like. The applicant is not present on Zoom.
All right, and did we hear from the neighborhood?
I think Aaron has stuck with us.
I am still here.
Aaron, thank you. Any comments, Aaron, from the neighborhood on this case?
Yeah, I've heard from a few neighbors. They're very eager for work to begin on this house. So it's a little bit of a tough one because we also believe that the application is not entirely clear on a few things yet. We do agree with staff recommendation in almost all regards, so that the small offset that's being proposed at the back is preferable as an inset rather than a cantilever. There's some thought that it may be the case that the applicant might find that keeping the railing on the front porch and just repairing it as needed might be a better option than replacing it entirely. But we're comfortable with that kind of being run through staff. The thing we still have the main concerns about are the windows. I did go by the house myself to take a look at the windows, and they are in really bad shape. So I think despite what the guidelines say about retaining windows if at all possible, I think this might be a case where it is not actually possible. They've been repaired really poorly over the years with caulks and other silicones and things that are really, really hard to remove, even if you were going to try to restore them. The concern is about the specs that are provided in the application. If any of you have ever ordered windows before or in the construction trades, that they do say in the descriptions of these that they're going to be coming with brick mold, standard sill nosing, and a drip cap, which is all exterior trim. Even though the application itself says that the interior trim should be kept and restored. And then there's also a proposal to replace that double window at the rear of the house on the side that you can see there on the right with a single window. And it clearly has always been a double window. It's got a wider joint in between, like where the sash weights would have hung on each part of the window. So the neighborhood is opposed to having that switched out for a single window, since there is no evidence that it ever has been a single window. I'm not sure what the recommendation on that should be. I mean, I think the neighborhood, in the interest of being able to have this project move forward, would be okay with a revision to the window specs being provided to staff with details that show that the new windows will match in size and profile with the originals that are there and being replaced. It would be nice. It would be nice generally, I think, for the neighborhood to be able to see those and have some comfort about that. But in the interest of letting the project move forward, if those can be added as conditions to the staff recommendation, that those paired windows be kept as paired windows, and that additional details and clarification that the windows that are being ordered as replacements are not going to come with this extra trim that's then going to infill the openings even smaller. If that can be made kind of a condition, I think the neighborhood would be comfortable with all of that being kind of put as a approval with staff verification.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. I'd like to open the floor up to the commission for questions or comments.
I would just like to state for the record that we did have considerable discussion on this property last month, and we requested that a lot of things be included so that we could see them, and we still did not get clarification on a lot of those items. So if there are conditions, that is the result of the information not being in the submittal.
Duly noted. Thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Streeter's comments and Commissioner Hearns as well. I agree. As much as it pains me, I think we need to postpone this, which I think would be the fourth postponement. I checked the meeting minutes, and we did this last month where it was at the top of the agenda and we moved to the end. But I don't feel comfortable just kind of nitpicking the application, approving with a bunch of conditions without the applicant present. I think we probably could, but I just don't think it's probably the best practice. And unfortunately for all our times, I think we need to see it again.
Lindsay, what's the limit of postponements?
I'm not aware that there is any.
And have you heard from the applicant since the last postponement?
She intended to participate via Zoom. Yeah, and she provided revised drawings. No. Sorry, no.
And Lindsay, just for clarification, how many times has it been postponed so far?
So it was
Twice?
it was postponed at the September meeting. The agendas were modified at the September meeting to remind the applicant to participate, and then the second time, not participating.
Okay, thank you. Right, exactly.
I'll make the motion to postpone unless there are any other further comments or discussions.
Were you specifically wanting to put it on the November agenda or just a postponement?
I prefer to give the applicant leeway whenever they can get the application together.
Sounds good.
The deadlines for applications are public information. They know them. It's important to them.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor for postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That wraps up this month. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, Reverend Renee, for joining us. And
It's not always this long.
yes, yes. But for the amount of work we had, we got through it pretty fast.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, we're adjourned.